to it. Hello, YouTube. This is BUB'S Comics coming at you with the No Faces Comic Chat. With me, as always, I have Metarog. Roger, say hello.
Greetings, everyone.
That'll work. And we have and we have DS Comics. Say hello.
What's up, everyone?
I like that. And of course, I'm BUB'S Comics, and we have tonight. We are the. I'll go ahead and read it because I know everyone else has a hard time remembering or liking it. We are the New Day, same pants, penny pinchers.
Wow.
So for any of you who have followed the chat in the past, you know that DS, he's got a con he's saving up for. It's funny because you hardly ever went to any cons like a couple of years ago, right? You were like had a big con drought, didn't you?
Yeah, like a 20-year con drought, and then I've only been to one since. So it's not like I'm going to them now either.
Well, he's saving up for the next one, and that means no new pants unless you find money at the counter.
Correct. I didn't remember what her name was, but I remembered the new pants part because that was a crucial part of my comic strategy, not buying them. You gotta be disciplined with the budgeting, man. You gotta cut out all the fat off the bone and just focus if you want to get some good books. That's what I do.
Roger said he was wearing his underwear for 4 days. Once right, once inside out, and then once front and one back or something like that. I think that's
yeah, that works.
Whatever you say, Bub.
Somebody said it last week.
You know, the fact that if that was true and you knew that is the real creepy part.
Somebody had said it last week in the chat. I don't remember who it was. I thought it was you. It might have been Deadpool 2323 or DS.
No, I do not discuss my laundry habits online.
Oh well, excuse me. I think it's good to air it out. In the chat already, we got Werewolf by Lunchtime saying hello. He a lot of times has to pop in and out, so glad we got a chance to acknowledge him. Knights of Old is here. Gray Man, Ray Man, and another man. The Comic Geek McDee's here. He's got to be rubbing his eyes. It's getting late over there. Same for the Gray Man. And then we have Comic Snipers in the house. I love his videos. I have to say, I really do enjoy all the great information on his channel and the way that he approaches it. He's kind of like me and DS too, where we really tend to not care very much. We say what we're gonna say, and then let the chips fall where they may, and don't worry too much about it. Whereas Roger, I know he gets the Mr. Congeniality Award on YouTube, and well deserved.
And that's probably why he has more subscribers than both of us.
Hey, I subscribe to him. I enjoy it.
Well, I don't do it on purpose. It's just who I am, I guess.
Yes, I meant to say effortless and humble, but I neglected my duties. I apologize. We got Area 51 Mike in the house. He put up a great video on some of his. I didn't get to comment on it because I watched like 20 videos today, but I was driving and at work, so I didn't get to comment much. But he put up a great video about his other hobby passions of his RC stuff, the RC planes and the RC cars and trucks and stuff. And that's just so fascinating to me. That I remember I grew up close to a beach in New York. And when and there's these big long parking lots there, and I remember that when the beach was kind of like too cold to go to the beach normally, like most people wouldn't be at the beach, I would see droves of those guys out there in jackets and hats flying planes off the parking lots, So I always remember that as a kid. So that's cool. I enjoy watching that little hobby he's got there.
Yeah, one of my favorite videos ever on YouTube, spanning everything on YouTube, is one of Area 51's videos. He did it probably, he's in the chat, he can throw out the exact date if he remembers, but he just did a video. He put a camera, like a GoPro, on his plane, and he just flew it around his area with just music. It was so awesome. One of my favorite videos on all of YouTube.
Man, you got to find that. Send me the link. I want to see that.
Yeah, I agree. That was really cool because you got a bird's eye view of the area where he flies in. It's beautiful mountains, and long, plateaus. Really, really cool video. You're right, DS.
Yeah, and he just like the plane took off, and you can see it's low, and as he's spiraling up, it gets higher and higher, and he's got music going, and then it's just so peaceful up there, and then he spirals back down, and he lands. And I think he did 2 trips up in the air on that video, if I remember correctly, and it's just awesome. Really, really
That's
cool.
Awesome. I'm gonna have to check that out, and also I know that he has a second channel where he does more of that stuff. So he had mentioned it today, so I'm going to try and find it. I think he put a link in there, but I couldn't do much about it at work. So what else we got? We have Metarog's in the house. Well, of course, Metarog's in the house. Area 51. My go-to geeks are here. Doug Reisdorf, if I'm saying that right, I hope. New subscriber. Thanks for joining us. And Comic Sniper's there, and we got a lot going on here. So Ed D Comics, Silver Age Dave's joined the chat. Welcome.
And Comic Pro just joined. My old buddy from Miami-Dade.
Hi, Leah. He took a road trip. Another one I didn't get to. Maybe I did get to comment on his, but he took a road trip, didn't he, to like Orlando?
Yeah, he went to Coliseum of Comics.
So that was pretty cool. Got an awesome haul. If y'all haven't checked out that video, you need to check that out too. That was really good. I've really been enjoying everyone's haul videos here lately. They've really been good. People are picking up some great stuff. Yeah. So I'm enjoying it. Well, chatters, I don't know if DS caught the video where this kind of happened, but me and Roger and Ranger Sly kind of got into a back and forth on the comment section on one of my videos where I had shown where is it? Avengers 144, the first appearance, which now has to be in heavy quotes after that conversation, of Hellcat, right?
First appearance of Patsy Walker as Hellcat, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that kind of spawned a little bit of a short discussion or debate or however you want to call it, where it was them against me. So, of course, I was already the underdog. So,
well, let's hear what it was. Maybe I'll back you up and you can even the score.
Well, they were kind of fussing a little bit together about calling this a first appearance at all, and basically saying that it wasn't really a key because it wasn't really a first appearance. Now, different people will call different things keys.
I didn't say it wasn't a key. I didn't say it wasn't a key. I just said, to me, it's not a total first appearance because Patsy Walker had appeared before, the Cat had appeared before, so this is really an amalgamation of the two.
Yes, and to be fair, it was really Ranger Sly who was more adamant about it not being a key, and really, although I did think that one of you, or if not both of you, had said you didn't even think the character was a good character, for that matter.
All right. Well, for the sake of friendship, Bub, I will back you up on this.
Good man.
All right. So first appearances do not have to be entirely new characters and people right out of nothing. They can be a new person takes the moniker of a known character that has a history, or a person changes their identity. And that's happened a lot, even with like going from the Golden Age to Silver Age. First Silver Age Flash, huge book, major key, first appearance. First appearance of the Flash, different uniform, different guy. Yeah, same sort of name and continuity with that company. Major first appearance, huge key. There's been a whole slew of new individuals who have taken up long-running characters in modern times. Like I'm talking like the last 5 years or so, with Thor and Iron Man and those first appearances, this Captain Marvel stuff. First Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel. Is that a first appearance? I mean, Captain Marvel was around a lot longer than her. Not really a first appearance, but it's a huge key. So yeah, I think that counts just as much as this other stuff. It's a first appearance of a particular person in a particular moniker or guise. So I'm with you, Bub.
Thank you. And that's how I look at it. And then also, there was some speculation with this book because Patsy Walker, or a version of Patsy Walker, had appeared in the Netflix show Jessica Jones. So when that happened, this book took on heat. And that was maybe a little over a year ago when she appeared. So this book took on heat because they were saying, well, you know, who is she going to be? Which version of Patsy Walker is she going to be? Which character is she going to be? And then it was expressly told that she was going to be Hellcat, specifically Hellcat, not the Cat or just Patsy Walker, in the upcoming season, which, as you all probably know, got canceled. So it never came to fruition. And since the cancellation of that show, this book dropped in value. So it was topping out at about $100 book. And since then, it's kind of plummeted, and it's holding steady right now at a fair market of somewhere around 50. And then, you know, with varying grades and such, or raw versus slabbed, you can even get them below that. Like I got this book, I think, for like $12. So, and happy to do so.
I've got a view of these books from an investment standpoint. It has nothing to do with Netflix or Marvel Cinematic Universe or anything, but the Avengers in particular, Bronze Age Avengers, even going back to late Silver Age, is stocked with first appearances of villains, of characters, of events. It's chock full of cool firsts. That being one of them. They're not major keys, but they're super cool books, and they're well worth going and picking up. You can find high grade ones for cheap, and I think they're just really good books to own. They're, you know, a lot of them are very minor keys, but they have value as time goes on. They're steady risers. They're cheap to pick up, and they will increase over time at a steady rate if you just want to invest. But if you're investing based on Netflix or the MCU, I mean, that's a whole other thing. That's not really investing. That's speculation, which is a different animal entirely. But that was on my list of, I made a whole list of Avengers books through the entire Bronze Age. And there's tons of cool little minor keys like that have a first appearance of this, first that, first this. And they're really cheap, and they're good, I think, to own, and especially round out a collection with some nice bronze books that maybe a lot of people don't know, but they're really awesome to own, and I think they have value going forward.
Well, I agree. It's got several, not just Hellcat's first appearance, but it's got several minor cameos throughout the book and a couple of flashbacks. It's got a Gil Kane cover. And, you know, if you can get a nice centered one with good colors, you know people love yellow on the cover of books. This is just splattered with it.
Yeah, that's a cool looking cover anyway, regardless of what it is.
Yeah, so I think it has, I think for that reason, what happens with some of the speculatory buys is that they raise in value, but then it brings awareness to the book. And so when it drops back down, it usually doesn't drop all the way back down to where it was before the speculation. It drops down, but then it settles in a nice range that would be befitting of a good cover, a first appearance, several, you know, other things going for the book. So I think, you know, I think the speculation may not be what you hang your overall price on, but if you can catch it before it gets too crazy and it settles back down, there's still some money that you could be making on these books if you had a stock of them, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of villains that come out in these Bronze Age Avengers for the first time. I have one at CGC right now. I just picked it up because it was cheap, and it was like a near mint grade, and it's the first appearance of Graviton. You know, most people don't even know who that is. He's never been in a movie. It's just a cool book. It was high grade.
Avengers 158.
There you go. It's cheap, and it was really cheap. I got it for a couple bucks. It's high grade. It's the first Graviton. Is that ever going to be anything? I don't know. He might show up in a movie. They're going to use different villains. He's had some pretty, yeah, and he's had some epic fights. Yeah. I think he's Canadian. He was a scientist in Canada, and it was working with gravity or whatever. But it's just a super cool book. I picked it up. It's at CGC to get slabbed. I think it's worth slabbing. I'll hold it for a little bit, and, you know, probably get a few bucks out of it in the future. Maybe not next week, but it's just a cool book to own. And, you know, the first Adamantium, I think, is an Avengers, like 67 or 76 or something.
Yeah, 67, I think it is.
Yeah, you know, stuff like that. It's just, you know, first Adamantium. If you're a Wolverine fan, you've got to get the first appearance of Adamantium. I think that's a cool book to own.
Yeah.
Bubble alert. Bubble alert.
Yeah, Bub, I don't think you have that, do you?
You got to have it, right? Picking up all that stuff. If you're, I used to call myself a completist, but I've moved away from that term because a true completist was what I probably started out being, where I had to have everything in some sort of formalized set, either a complete run volume wise, every appearance, you know, crossover titles. So that does get a little manic, but I don't do that anymore. So, but I do still like things that have association. So yes, that'd be a book I'd want because it has a strong association with the Wolverine character, of which my collection is probably a quarter Wolverine. So that would be
and
good.
I would suggest if you're going after a book like that or one of these other like minor keys, we're just talking about Avengers Bronze Age, but try to find a near mint or better copy for like $10 or less. Really an easy chore to do right now, but it gets harder as time goes on. People scoop these up, people pass them around, the grades go down, the condition worsens on a lot of these.
That's
but,
true.
You know, you can probably go on eBay, which is, you know, known for having high prices a lot of times, and get an Avenger 67 in a really high grade for probably not even a slab. Probably a 9.0 slab is probably only, I don't know, $150, I would think.
Yeah,
I mean, I could be way off, but I can't imagine it being more than that. A near mint first appearance of Adamantium, cool. You know, Avenger 67 for $150. That's a decent book to pick up, especially if you're a Wolvie fan.
I'm down with that.
Is this the one you sent in? DS 159 or one? Is that right?
No, 158. It's not that
158.
one.
Okay, I forgot.
Yeah, it had like a white cover with some red on it. Didn't have all that blue.
Yeah, I forgot which one it was, so that's why.
I think it was 150. Yeah, there it is. That
there
one.
It is.
Because it had the white letters with the red borders.
Right, because I know he appeared in the first cover was 159, but
yeah, and I wasn't like scoping that out, but I came across it. It's the first Graviton, and
it's a nice Kirby cover too.
Yeah, you know, I got it for only a couple bucks.
Yeah, I got mine out of the quarter bin way back when. I know that.
Well, you should have got 4 of them.
Well, I didn't. I couldn't. I didn't do doubles. You know, I probably had an opportunity to get all kinds of stuff, but I just didn't do doubles because I didn't think I could have space for all this stuff. So.
Yeah, last week I sold off a bunch of my doubles. And there were some nice books in there, but I was happy with the price. I sold them to a comic shop. You know, as most of you know, I like to sell my stuff to comic shops. I know that I'm leaving some meat on the bone there, to where if I'd sold them on eBay, maybe I get a little bit more. But I hate my life being ruled by the post office and having to go ship things all the time. I hate dealing with sellers, you know, deadbeat buyers, you know, stuff like that. I hate all of that, posting it. I'd rather just go to the comic shop, and I know that it's going to go in the hands of a collector because people are coming in there to buy, you know. So I like that. But anyway, I had a bunch of doubles, and I think there's only maybe 3 books that I even kept a second copy of. Now I get a little loose with my doubles. Like if it's a Whitman variant, I don't consider that a double. That's a variant, right? If it's a newsstand versus direct edition, I don't consider that a double. That's a variant. You know,
I'm with you. Oh, look, like I wanted to show you this here.
Yeah.
Okay, we got this one here, right? Amazing Adventures 24, no big deal, right? But I think this here is a color variant. I mean, look, can you see? Look up here. Look up here. Look how different that is. Look how different the tripod is here than here.
Oh yeah, but look at the Marvel Comics group.
Blue. It looks like the blue ran out on the printer of the. I'm going to focus on you. Looks like the blue ran out of the printer on the left-hand side because that's the color that's missing from everything is blue.
I think missing from everything, right? So I think this is a color variant of some sort because I've seen others like this too.
I think it's an error printing.
Well, it is. Well, it's a color eror. Yeah, it's true.
Okay.
I think an error printing can be called a variant if there's enough of them out there. Do you know what I mean? If there's a particular issue that has a preponderance of
there are others error, like the Sandman one. You know.
Yeah, so I think that counts as a variant if there's others out there. So yeah, that's it's always cool to find those. I mean, it's the coolest one I've ever seen, and he's in the chat. Is Silver Age Dave has that like one that was I can't even remember what book it was, but I'm sure he can type it in there. That book he had that was printed with like no color or something. It's like a black and white blank or something. It's the only one I've ever seen. He might DC literally have the only one.
Brave and the Bold,
Brave and the Bold, yeah.
That's
probably the only one in existence. That's not a variant.
No. Somebody in the chat say, could Sunfade do that? No. Sunfade would not. It would fade the reds first.
Yeah.
Not here. So Daniel is asking. No, this is not. I've seen Sunfade. That's not Sunfade.
You would also see a variation in the colors because they don't all sunfade the same.
At the same way, the same rate, correct. But the difference is too stark to me. So it looks like what Bub was saying is that either it ran out or they forgot to put the blue plate back in when they ran this particular set because it's too different. It's way too different.
They had who was it that had that? Oh, that's right. I saw for sale Daredevil 1 on Facebook. Somebody was selling a Daredevil 1 and they called it a color variant. And it was so sun faded that it was basically black and white. And where the black was like a light green and everything else was just gone.
Yeah.
And he's a color variant. And the funniest thing was that like up here, you could see where there used to be a price tag on the bag and that had full color. Like it was a tiny little triangle that had full color.
That's
sort of like a reverse sun
variant, you know?
Yeah, reverse sun shadow. Yeah, it's rather good one.
You know, there are some books that are known for the color variants that are actually variants, and I think it's because they used actually different inks. And one is like New Mutants 87, the first Cable. There's red ones and there's orange ones. And I think they just changed the color ink they used halfway through the print run of that book. I don't think they ran out or it's a lesser color strike. I think they just used, they didn't have any more red and they used orange because they're significantly different.
Well, yeah, and you can have defects too. Like I've got on my Hulk 181, there's some printer defects here. You see the yellow where the orange and yellow, it's like a yellow splattering.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's showing up, but I had that checked out and it's just a printer. It's a printer defect, but it's not like damage or anything to the book. Didn't affect the grade at all. So
does yours have any like white specks on the bottom of the spine, like right on the inside there?
On the bottom of the spine, it's got the bottom part ticks.
No. Like it would be like you could see like little white, almost like snow.
No,
light snow. No, okay, because mine does.
That yellow.
Yeah, mine had some of that, Roger, on the spine near Wolverine's. What is it? I don't have the book in front of me anymore because I don't own it anymore. But
put it up.
Let me click on BUB'S so I can see.
Over by his right claw. Like I've got some more spots there of the yellow where it's kind of dribbled in from the orange.
Yeah, I mean to the left of his claw, there's like a color rub that goes down there, and it's notoriously on this book. And I had a lot of that. And if it's not real bright, it looks like little white speckles. But that color rub is pretty prevalent.
Right there. It went from his arm all the way down to the shoulder of Wendigo. Mine has all those little specks of white.
Huh. You never know what you're going to get these books. I mean, it's not, they're just churning them out, you know, at that time, they had no idea anybody's going to give a crap, you know?
Right. Well, and if you get those graded, if it's a manufacturing defect and it's not something major, it really doesn't affect the grade essentially. So, I mean, I wouldn't, unless you care about the appearance, don't hold off anyone on buying a book because there's a specific defect that's minor, because if it's a production defect, it's not really going to affect the grade too much. You know, you may not get a 9.8 if there's two other things and there's a major problem with a production defect. You're not going to get a 9.8, but I mean, you can pull a 9.0 on something that has a manufacturing defect. They overlook that. The biggest, most notorious manufacturing, I think it's a manufacturing defect, are the two holes on the bottom of each page on these older books where the printing machine would put hooks in to pull the pages off.
Yes, those are the bindery tears.
Yeah, and I think there's been some people who are newer at comics that I've talked to, and they're like, oh, this one's got holes in the bottom of every page. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. They all do from that time period.
Right, yes. See if you can see what I'm talking about. Look at the chain there. Can you see? Is it too blurry?
Oh, yeah, I see it.
I'm going to focus on you. I
can't. That's, that's common on those. I had that on mine. It's just, how long is the stretch of it? But that's right. Yeah, I had the same thing on mine.
But otherwise, this comic is otherwise in really good shape. I mean, it's like nothing wrong with the sharp corners, the whole bit. But that has always bothered me to the point where I put it as a VF,
Yeah, I mean, you're probably not going to get a 9.8 if your Hulk 181's got that, but very few people are going to get close to a 9.8 anyway. There's an X-Men book that's notorious for having a very specific manufacturing defect, which makes 9.8 super rare in that book because almost all of them have that little, it's like a bindery tear on the bottom or something by the staple. But it's so prevalent and it's slightly worse than a minor that there's hardly any 9.8s of that book because they all have that defect and it's a small tear or something. So if you can find a 9.8, I can't remember what book it is, and it's like 108, maybe first Starjammers book or something. Is it 108?
Yeah, 108. Yeah, it is and it's in the 100s and something. I know what.
Yeah, 107 or 108 or something. The X-Men book. I can't remember off the top of my head, but
I think you said it previously that Marvel in the Bronze Age had horrendous quality control. I mean, absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, I see better printing and production quality on Golden Age books from like Fiction House or EC than I do on some Bronze Age Marvel.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's just nuts. It's nuts. The miscuts, the printing errors, the bindery tears, the overwraps and underwraps are just terrible. I mean, to find a centered copy of any given Bronze Age book is mission impossible.
Yeah, and it goes pretty. They didn't correct the problem fully for a long time because even into the very end of the Bronze, like what really annoys me about ASM 238s is when most of them, or a high percentage of them, are so miscut that Marvel banner is right up on the top. There's no space, and it's so obviously badly miscut that it bothers me on that book in particular. I've seen so many like that. And then even when you get into the 80s, like with X-Men 266, that one half the time the words on top are cut right to it or into it. So even they couldn't even get the centering right on that book. It's taken them a while to really get it. And that went on for more than a decade where they had just piss poor quality production for a major company, in my opinion.
So moving a little bit closer back to topic, not that we haven't talked about some great stuff so far, which is all great stuff. What about when a character changes and stays that way, like permanent changes? You know, I have two that come to mind right away, and one is when Nick Fury joined S.H.I.E.L.D. So, you know, now to me, that is a first appearance. That's a first appearance of Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., as opposed to just Nick Fury. Or Sergeant Fury, you could say, right? So when he joins S.H.I.E.L.D., his whole character pretty much changes. And it becomes an ongoing force behind his character and his team and everything from that point, and continuing on now, and then, of course, represented in the movies. And another thing, I don't know if you guys... Have you both seen Captain Marvel, or have either of you seen Captain Marvel?
I've seen it.
I haven't seen it yet. I'll wait till it comes out to rent on pay-per-view or Comcast or whatever.
Okay. Well, this is not any kind of spoiler, but in Captain Marvel, Nick Fury features very heavily, and a slightly younger version of Nick Fury, right? Thanks to digital whatever, photoshopping, right?
Right.
So
photoshopping, right? There you go.
Photoshopping, and they kind of rewrite
photoshopping for him. Yeah.
They kind of ignore this, you know, anything before this. You know, they kind of ignore that he was ever Sergeant Fury, and they kind of ignore that he had a real war history. And correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember them ever mentioning that. It just kind of seemed like he started out with S.H.I.E.L.D., you know, from the beginning.
I don't think they mentioned that. I mean, I always got the impression that he was ex-military, but I don't think they mentioned that, no.
Yeah, it does strike me. I had some of the old Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos books, and those are real cool. And I've read some of the Nick S.H.I.E.L.D. ones after the period you're talking about, and they strike me as two entirely different characters, really.
Yes. They are. Yeah, they are.
I mean, even though it's the same guy. You know, there was a long time before I asked and got a definitive answer if that even was the same Nick Fury. I never delved too much into it, and I casually read a couple of them from each side of that changeover, but it was so different of a character. I wasn't even sure that really was. And I had the Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos #1, which I sold several years back. I never even knew for sure if that was the same Nick Fury back then when I sold that. So it seems so different of a character.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep, totally.
So, you know, there's an example of a character kind of having a whole nother life, but they still, you know, remain that it was the same character, but it had a whole nother life, you know, that held on and is still going on. So Knights of Old is saying I make it sound like Nick Fury was in Strange Tales 134, the book preceding this, and he just had a different job. No. but
that's a good one. That's a good one.
Of course not, you know. But I think it's interesting how, you know, it's not just the character changes names or, you know, changes looks or anything like that, but it can be just a job. So now the character has a new job and it changes changes everything completely. I don't have an example of it, but I think Oracle would be another good example of that. You know,
I think Black Widow is a good example of that too.
Yeah.
Black Widow went from a espionage, a Russian spy, to all of a sudden, you know, appearing as more of a superheroine, you know, kind of role.
And they're unrecognizable to each other in looks, character, everything.
Everything. Well, they changed their costume, they changed their motivations, everything.
How about Ant-Man? There's been about 10 iterations of that character with 2 different individuals and multiple different superhero identities with Ant-Man. There's been tons of them. I actually should have pulled it out. I've got one of those old Marvel Ages issues that has an article in there where they go over each iteration of Ant-Man and all the different characters that this went through over the years. And there's like, you know, 8 to 10 of them.
Wow.
It's I'm not really familiar with that many. I'm only familiar with 3. Unless you're counting the Giant Man, Goliath, all that, Yellow Jacket, all that stuff.
Well, yeah, all that stuff is the same sort of character progression. You know, I think that all sort of counts.
I would agree.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, certainly that particular character, yeah, he went through, but again, he had issues. You know, I mean,
yeah. It was Hank Pym at first, and then it was Scott Lang. So you have 2 different people. But there's many different characters. One is a really tiny character, and one is a huge character. One could fly. Like there's all different superheroes in there, and it's the same character, sort of. You know.
Yeah. But that kind of progression happens to so many different heroes, and you can even take Spider-Man for example. You see Spider-Man in Amazing Fantasy 15. You see him today. That's a totally different character. I mean, you know, he has powers that are similar, but you know, his attitude. I mean, obviously, this has been almost 60, 50, 58, 59, 58 years since Spider-Man first started, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at Spider-Man today, that is, of course, he's been talking about changes. I mean, there was a point where he was married, and then all of a sudden they just erased that and started over in Brand New Day.
Well, even more recently, wasn't he? Didn't he give away or sell his corporation? He became a CEO of a tech company, which then got outed from, or he sold or something, and then he started crashing on what's her face's couch. Wasn't that in recent times in the last couple of years? That's totally different than the high school kid who was a neighborhood crime fighter.
Right. Correct.
And then you have, you know, somebody, I think might have been Knights of Old as well, again, talking about retconning characters. You know, like he's this character that was a clone that, you know, you've known for years and now is a clone. And you can look at this, you know, the first appearance of Domino, and then you find out it's not Domino, it's Copycat or whatever. And you know, that's an idea too, that even when you come across a first appearance, it may not stay that way. They may they might change it.
They could be a scroll. They could be from another dimension. They could be, like you said, a clone, an LMD. Somebody said here.
Hey, that's the book we were just looking at. This is the first appearance of the
life model decoys.
Life model decoys as well. So you got a couple of first appearances in here. I forgot about that, and the first appearance of Hydra. So this is a pretty big book to me. I was super psyched to get it when I was seeking it out. I was shocked that I was able to get it for the price that I got it for. But yeah, there's the LMDs right there.
Yeah, I think on another Spider-Man sort of miss key is X-Men 35 is an early Spider-Man crossover, and in that span of X-Men, that's really the most valuable one. Like after the Sentinels and after the Juggernaut 12 and 14. It's not really any super valuable X-Men books till you hit 35, which is a Spider-Man crossover. But I think the Spider-Man on the cover is a changeling. It's not even actually Spider-Man.
That's crazy.
Yep.
All right, Dave. Looks like Silver Age Dave's got to go. He may catch the rest of it on the rewind. We thank you for joining us. We got Surly Tim's Fun Bunker. That's a good name. We got Discovery Bays in the house. Thanks for the shout outs and the promotions that you're doing for the community. You're really, really amazing. Mr. Gretzky 9966. I watched one of his videos today, but I forget what it was about. I watched a ton today. I was speed watching, and I wasn't physically watching all of it. I was listening to just listening to some of it. Speed watching. Yeah, I put it on 2 times speed.
You can do that?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
you can watch a video. You can slow it down if you want to like 0.5, I think, and then you can speed it up to as much as 2 times
Oh,
in
okay.
increments of halves.
I have no idea. Okay.
Yeah, I do it a lot. It'll give you a headache after about 2 hours, but if you keep it
2 hours. Oh man.
you can get a lot of videos watched at 2 times speed. I do it all the time. And what's funny is that I can get one of Roger's videos in about 15 minutes at double speed. So that really helps.
I'm keeping mine to 20 minutes. Okay. I'm doing better.
Well, I tell you what's really good for it. What it's really good for is catching up on videos. Some people really speak with a very slow cadence.
Yes.
And only show like one book every 4 or 5 minutes or so. And I'd probably be one of those people. I'd probably be a good candidate to watch my own videos at 2 times speed. But one of them in particular, I don't know if you guys watch his channel, but MIB, Master Toy Museum.
Oh yeah, he's very slow. Yes,
he is ridiculously slow.
Master,
he's like
Toy Museum. I'm like, is this Kirk or something? I mean, who is this? Who is this talking? But he's got some really good stuff though. I mean, amazing.
Like halfway through his video, right? Which is nothing's live. Like halfway through his video, he'll say, "If you're just now joining us,
yeah,
we've been doing the following." And I'm like, who starts a YouTube video at the halfway point just to see what's going on? You know?
Yeah, I haven't watched any of his. I'll have to check him out. I'm not familiar with this channel.
I mean, it's mostly action figures like the older ones, Megos, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think it's cool. But yeah, when he does these pregnant pauses and he takes his time and he'll do this comparison, and so yeah, I can understand why Bub would want to kind of speed that up a bit. But his stuff is really good though. The stuff he has is amazing stuff.
Amazing channel. When you fast forward his videos and watch him on double speed, it sounds still slow, and it sounds like a regular, cadence of speaking though, but it's still a little bit on the slow side.
Hey, let's get into the chat a bit because we haven't talked about it in a while.
Okay.
All right, we got I think you said Surly Tim's Fun Bunker. I've been watching his videos. He's a funny guy. He does like these reviews. He has this little intro where he's got this little beep boppy music and he has this big chair and it's everybody. By the way, everybody sub everybody up in the chat. Okay, let's do that. You got some really good stuff in here.
I was unaware of his channel, so that's awesome.
We got Ranger Sly. Hey, buddy, how you doing? From up in Canada, I do believe. Thomas Churchill, one of the nicest guys on YouTube you'll ever want to.
He's relatively local to me, I think. We're probably about 100 miles apart or so.
Well, that's relatively local. Yeah, you're right. Gray Man is in here chatting it up. He's staying up, burning the midnight oil. Hi, Aaliyah Comic Bro, my buddy from, as I said before, from over Miami-Dade. Discovery Bay is in the house, people. We've been discovered, everybody. And of course, everybody knows about his 181 find from yesterday.
And the pure joy, if you haven't seen that video, the pure joy in his face is worth it.
I was there. I was there when he opened it, so I know. Mr. Gretzky is in the house. And Probe 186 is also in here somewhere. I saw him before. And Comic Sniper still around, and I subbed him, he subbed me. So that's what we got to do. Let's support each other. Let's get everybody up there, okay? Let nobody go without another sub tonight, all right?
Ranger Sly kicked in, so he didn't know we were talking about him earlier. So
yeah, his ears were probably burning.
Probably so. Let's see who else we got. We got Mastodon Comics.
Oh, Mastodon's in here. Oh yeah,
yep,
and Biggie Shack. Yeah, Biggie Shack. Melody, that was a mistake. It's Biggie Shack.
Right.
Oh, hold on. Look what Ranger Sly says here. By the way, Bub, you were right. I was wrong. I had completely forgotten that the first Cat series was not Patsy Walker, but Greer Nelson.
Well, I don't do this for the recognition. I just want to
a humble Bub. But Yeah, but but to me that is not that big a deal because it was her costume and the powers came with the costume, the little bit of powers that you got from it, the claws and the whole bit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The agility, which I always feel more limber in a loose pair of tights. So I tell you, here's another book, right? That is another change that stayed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you got Amazing Adventures number 11. You have the first furry beast. So we're not talking about DS Comics here.
Ooh,
furry beast.
Oh.
That's the only power that me and him share in common, by the way, is the fur. But I had it first.
The Hirsute DS.
I had mine from the inception. He got his later on, so I had the fur before him.
Born with it.
I got some fur myself, DS. Don't worry. If you've seen my arms before, you know I got some fur.
I know, but Bubba always likes to pick on mine, but that's fine.
I'm doing all right. I'm not bald. I'm not bald armed. Well, I knew a guy. I suppose I still know him, but I don't see him much around anymore. But he's like hairless. Like he's a tennis player, and the guy has like no hair in his arms, no hair in his legs. He walks around in shorts, and it's unnerving, you know. But a nice guy anyway. But yeah, that happens. So yeah, first furry beast. And so here's a change to a character that stuck, you know. So Beast, of course, from X-Men 1 to what? X-Men, when does, I forget.
67, somewhere there.
Yeah, he was a member of the X-Men, and he still had all the powers, basically, of this form of the Beast, but he had not de-evolved into being hairy.
So I'm not too up on that, but he's gray there, and he was blue without fur before.
No, he was regular. He was like, you know, a regular dude.
No, they turned him kind of blue later on. I'm looking for that one.
Yeah, but what he's asking is before he's blue hair now, but his first hair was gray.
Yes.
And before that, he was hairless. He was a normal...
Right. I mean, early on, he was just like regular dude, but just had the powers.
I think it was in Avengers when they drew him blue, but I'm looking that up.
And I don't think that there's any explanation given either when they change color.
I think the artist just liked him better blue. And actually, no, right here. Look at here. Amazing Adventures 16. Okay.
That's like a gunmetal gray or something. That's close.
Yeah.
It's like a steel.
But look inside here. Look inside here. You can see he's definitely blue there.
Yeah, it looks like a werewolf in that issue.
Yeah, almost, right? Let me get another panel where it says that it's more stark. What is that? Okay, looky there. I think you can tell it's pretty blue there. Yeah,
that's blue for sure.
Yeah.
So Gray Man, that's when he turned blue. I think it was Gray Man who asked. That's when he turned blue.
And what number is that?
16. Amazing Adventures 16.
Amazing Adventures 16. All right, put that on the list, everybody.
That on the list. That's also one of the Halloween issues that I went over previously in one of my videos. A plug for my channel there.
I'm sure I watched that last year.
It was this year.
I'm sure I watched it. I'm sure it was a Halloween video this year.
It wasn't Halloween, but the comic book is from Rutland, Vermont, and that Halloween parade. But I covered it this year.
Oh, okay. I remember now. I'm still. Actually, I have that video paused at minute 36.
Hold on. He's look at this. He's gray here. This is 15, right? He's gray there in the splash page, but then there he starts turning blue. We may have solved the mystery here, folks. Hold on. Yeah, look at him there. That's blue. Oh,
yeah, that's blue.
So you're saying forget about 16. It's 15 right here.
All right, 16 is off the list, everybody. We're back
off the list. Everybody in the chat, take 16, cross it out, put in 15.
Yeah, so why doesn't that have the same sort of value as the first furry beast. I don't understand they're both
it was just
equal.
the color change. I don't think anything else changed.
Well,
Yeah, I know, but the color change is as big as getting the fur to me. I mean, they're both equal changes in the character. I'm not sure why one is like key and the other one's we didn't even know what issue it was.
When he became furry, he also became more feral. He became a lot more aggressive. He had periods of time where he would lose control. And the original Hank McCoy was very cerebral, very serene, very methodical. This one was a little more had a Wolverine bent to him, shall we say.
Well, it's like, plus these are all just comics. So not to detract, but I'm just saying when it comes to the art, they had trouble printing the Gray Hulk, right? That's how he ended up green. I think some colors are particularly troublesome, and it seems like gray may be a troublesome color for newsprint, especially. So, they could have changed it to blue to make it more consistent. Instead of having 7 different shades of gray, you can just have blue, and it looks a little darker or lighter, but it's still blue.
Yeah,
you think they would have learned that from their experiment with Hulk, where they only did 1 issue, and they're like, yeah, gray's not working. Let's use green. So they went right to issue 2, and then all these years later, they tried it again with the Beast, and didn't work.
Yeah. Mastodon says, Comics and Collecting says X Factor 31 is a book of note on the blue color. So maybe there's an explanation there.
Okay. I have to check that. I don't have too many X Factor books.
My collection stops at 30, so I do not have 31.
Oh, the same battle cry of everyone who stopped their order at 180, right? Hulk 180.
Well, I didn't stop there, but
so close.
We all know the story at this point. But I did start Spider-Man at 130. That was a bummer.
And then you have the extreme changes, right? You talk about up, down, and all around, right? So you get to Shazam, where they just kind of reinvent the character, but other than the branding and the logo and everything like that, right? You have to change the name. You have to make reference. Then you got another superhero talking about the change, who's not even in the book, just like is like Superman doing his best PSA impression, just so you all know this is what happens. You start so those changes I think make for key books as well.
Yeah. Well, and that's the first time. Remember, he was a Fawcett character.
Yeah.
And DC acquired his rights because he was just in limbo. And so that to me is a fairly different character, and he had been gone for so long too that makes sense to me.
Alex is saying catch y'all later. I didn't catch when he came in, so I'm sorry we missed you, and we'll catch you on the rewind. Appreciate that. Probe 186 is talking about the first Spider-Man that had the blue lizard. I'm pretty sure it's this one. I don't know if this one has the blue lizard in it, but I know it's the gold variant, the gold and black. Like I said, I'm not sure if this one is the blue lizard one or not. I don't remember.
Yeah, it's in one of those. It's in one of those, yeah.
But it's in the gold and black version of this cover, not the silver or the green.
So the second printing has it.
If you say so. Is the second printing gold?
Yes.
Okay. Well, there you go.
I have it, but it's kind of buried right now.
Do you have it with the blue lizard?
I don't know. I don't recall.
Yeah.
You're talking about the lizard, the Spider-Man villain?
Yes.
Yeah, it has a
blue in that issue. I didn't even know that.
It's got a print color error, not in all of them, but
not the whole issue. It's just like a panel or two.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's cool. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
There's a couple of little printer defects.
That's just an error. That's not a change in the character in any way, shape, or form. That was just an error. It's not like the Beast or the Black Widow or.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Now, Roger's got that Ghost Rider #1 up there, and I know it's not just to tease me, although it's working for that as well. But I'm sure it's because he has a great example of a character change to show us.
Right. Well, it's not so much the Ghost Rider as we know had various iterations. There was the Western Ghost Rider, then there was the Johnny Blaze version, and then the demon was exorcised from Johnny Blaze, and then he just started he kept going in Marvel Comics, but as Johnny Blaze, not as a Ghost Rider. And then the demon attached himself to Daniel Ketch, and he became more of a spirit of vengeance kind of character. And then much later on, then there was the Ghost Rider that now drives a big muscle car.
Yeah,
so that's just an example. Oh, Robbie Reyes, right? That's just an example of when you said how characters change, evolve with the times, et cetera, et cetera. That's an example. From a Western character, you get with a horse, you get to a guy with a hot rod, or a muscle car, whatever it is.
Well, plus you have some publisher changes there too, and things of that nature. I remember maybe a couple days ago, I think it was that. Don the Comic Book Junkie had put up a video about, kind of showcasing his Ghost Rider collection, and he was showing off the Western Ghost Rider #1 as being the first appearance of the Western Ghost Rider, which is not actually correct.
No.
I mean, it is in the sense that these are all first appearances that we've shown here tonight as well, but it's actually in Tim Holt 11. That he makes, and it's also Dick Ayers. So you have the same author or the same
artist.
The same artist. It was his creation. It was Dick Ayers' creation for the Ghost Rider, and then they had to wait until that publication company lost the rights till they had expired to that character, and then he was able to bring the Ghost Rider into the Westerns with Ghost Rider #1 with Marvel. So. Once they change publishers, you have changes there. So that Ghost Rider has a nice long history of changing often different forms.
Yeah,
and some they change them to the Phantom Rider, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, and some of those Golden Age Ghost Riders with the Frazetta covers are some of Frazetta's best work. I love those covers. I plan to pick up some, but they're pretty hard to find. Some of them are really hard to find. And they're getting pricier as time goes on, but they're really, really good Frazetta artwork.
Yeah, they're on my list too. But the other problem is that they're very detailed, almost in an LB Cole style, where there's nothing blank. There's no negative space. Everything is filled with detail. So the problem with that is, for me as a low grade collector, right, is that when I come across those books and that are missing little pieces out of the cover, it really bothers me because I know that there's good art missing from that cover.
I see what you're saying. Well, Frazetta stuff is like that. If you're going to get a Frazetta cover, it's very intricately drawn pretty much everywhere. He uses the entire page, and he does a lot of intricate line work, which is why he's so good. But yeah, I definitely see what you're saying.
Yeah, it's hard.
I found this thing if you guys are interested. This is, I've been looking through these while we've been talking, but this is what I was talking about in that Marvel Age. And this is just sort of a cartoonish. These are great though. If anybody finds these, if they're cheap, if you find them, they're so fun to read.
Yeah, I have that one. Yeah.
Yeah, if you just read these, you would know so much about the Marvel Universe and comics in general.
That's where I get all my knowledge right there.
You have more knowledge than they could ever contain in these pages, Roger. But this would be a good start towards that. But this issue is number 31. This is from October of '85, and inside the centerfold, actually, it's got a pictorial history of Henry Pym. So yeah, it shows how he was we first saw him in Tales to Astonish 27. A short time later, in Tales to Astonish 35, Dr. Pym becomes Ant-Man for the first time. Joined by Janet Van Dyne, he becomes Giant Man in Tales to Astonish 49. And then with a new cybernetic helmet, he becomes the new Giant Man in Tales to Astonish 65. But not for long. After Tales 69, he returns to devote his time to biochemistry. Then he returns as Goliath in Avengers 28, but now he's stuck at a height of 10 feet. And then down here, regaining control of his size, changing abilities. In Avengers 51, the colors of his uniform change. Avengers 59 brought forth the Yellow Jacket, an identity that now Schizo Pym isn't even aware of. And after a stint as Yellow Jacket, he returns to Ant-Man, Avengers 93. And then after a brief period beginning in Marvel Feature 4, he was trapped at the diminutive size of Ant-Man, and then he returns as Yellow Jacket in Avengers, and then now he's a retired adventurer. So I don't know, kind of cool stuff like this in these Marvel Age books. And it's got, the issues listed. So if you were a big fan, you wanted to go pick up these key issues in this progression. This is what I was talking about earlier. It's just a cool little thing. You find they have one of these almost in every Marvel Age issue, one of these little cartoony sort of history lessons.
That's Fred Henbeck who draws those cartoony sections.
Yeah, and he does one in every issue.
Every one,
starting in pretty early in the Marvel Age run. But
in the teens or 20s. Yeah,
I just sold that book last week, and now I wish I had it back.
Well, you can have this one if you want.
No, that's all right.
I've read it several times, and I just read it now again. And then on the back of a lot of these, they have these calendars.
The calendars, yeah, those are cool. Yeah.
So.
I have mine, and I looked through them too and they also give you the what issues came out that week or that month in order. Yeah. So if you wonder what came out the first week versus what came out the fourth week, for appearance's sake, those are also really good to.
Yeah, the list in the beginning has all the different issues coming out. A lot of these too have previews. We're not going to get into that whole first appearance thing again, but a lot of these preview first appearances that are coming up, and they'll show images or panels directly from the comic book before it actually comes out. So, we've talked about this at length. I'm not going into that again, but Marvel Age, pick these up cheap. They're just super cool to read. I love these.
Yeah, agreed.
There's a bit of a fun round going in the chat about Ghost Riders in the Sky, that song. And I didn't know if they knew this, that's not a coincidence that Dick Ayers actually developed the character Ghost Rider, the original Western Ghost Rider, because of the popularity of that song at the time.
Really?
Yes.
That's amazing that you know that. That's impressive.
Thank you.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, so that's not a coincidence.
I'm a Ghost Rider fan, so I didn't know
it wasn't in a Marvel Age, Roger, so we didn't know it.
No, that's right. They didn't put that in.
Well, Bub's in this new generation where they can just Google and use Wikipedia, so he doesn't have to go to traditional library methods to learn stuff. He just goes on the internet and knowledge is thrown at him.
I get lots of things thrown at me. It's rarely knowledge. So
yeah, some of these have cool covers too, like that one. That's a cool cover, Silver Samurai and Daredevil and Elektra on that.
I have several, but I don't have that one. Well, Biggie Shap is throwing out a question here, and I don't know it, Biggie, because I'm not a Batman guy, but maybe somebody does. He says, what's up with the Gargoyle Batman? I think he's talking about the one where, Batman had those really long ears and that kind of eerie cape and kind of gothic almost like. I think it was drawn by Kelly Jones, if I remember correctly. I don't know what was up with that because I didn't read Batman at that point. So maybe somebody in the chat or maybe one of you two guys know about that.
I'm not a big fan of it. I didn't care for any of those ghoul Batmans. I thought they looked terrible. The elongated ears and all that, it just looked horrible. I thought
they looked almost monster-like. Batman.
Yeah, I'm not a huge. I don't have a lot of knowledge about Batman, but. He's had a lot of different looks over the years, different uniforms, and different artists have drew him strikingly different. And I really liked how Frank Miller used to draw him. And then I think Kelly Jones sort of draws him similar to the way Frank Miller did too. But yeah, I'm no expert on Batman.
Okay. Sorry, Biggie. We that you got us on that one. But I'll look it up for next week. How's that? I'll look it up for next week.
The only ones that I had, if we're all still talking about the same type of Batman, were the ones that were in the dark, where he gets his back broken, Nightfall in the Nightfall series. Just before that, he starts that kind of ghoulish looking covers, and there's several in the Nightfall run that have those same covers, that have the same look to that Batman. I didn't care for him at all. I think it's one of the things that hurts that run.
Yeah, we need a Batman expert for that one, and unfortunately none of the three of us are. If it was Superman, I'm your man, but Batman I know very little about.
I'm really not that good on DC. I have to admit, And I don't take it as a point of pride like some people are real. I'm a Marvel guy. Make mine Marvel guy. I'm not that way. I just, I guess I grew up more with Marvel. And when it came to DC, I've tried several of their characters out, and I don't. Yeah, I like Batman. I like Superman. I like Wonder Woman. I like the Flash. After that, I'm pretty much done. There's not too much.
Oh yeah, and Mike, Area 51 is just commenting. Sam Keith exaggerates Batman's ears and gloves. Yeah, Sam Keith exaggerates everybody that he draws.
Yeah.
In such
it might have been
cool
Sam
way.
Keith that Biggie Shaq is thinking about. Now that he says it might be the Sam Keith Batman.
I tell you, I only have Sam Keith art in my collection as it pertains to Wolverine, and it's almost every time I go through my collection, those are the first books I pull to get rid of, and I just don't because they're in runs that I want to keep. But his art drives me crazy.
Yeah, there's a Marvel Comics Presents run that has Wolverine versus Venom, and it's Sam Keith art, and he draws Venom and Wolverine in that exaggerated style.
I know, I've got the whole run. It just drives me crazy.
Oh, they're great. That's classic art. I love those.
You would.
I do. I mean, I like them, when the Image started putting stuff out and Sam Keith was drawing the Max. Yeah, really, really cool stuff. I've always liked Sam Keith.
I like the Max. I thought that fit well. It's not always offensive to me, but most of the time when he draws Wolverine, it bothers me because I just don't want my Wolverine to look that ridiculous. Like some of them are okay. Here's one I like. Marvel Comics Presents 122.
Yeah, that's in that run we were talking about.
Yeah, I can deal with that. But still, it's a little weird.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, but he draws the I don't know what you call it, the ears part, the black part on the top. They're not really ears. You know what I'm talking about? Whatever that is. Yeah. He draws those so huge on Wolverine. They're like wings.
Yeah, here's an example of one that would take flight. Look
there you go.
Wide that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got 2 copies of that, actually. I like the interior art is really good, too. And those are flip books, so you can flip it over, and there's another artist with another cover and another story. It's cool.
What, 3 or 4 stories per comic, or 5 even. Yeah. Oh, that's I don't know. Those look like he could use them to cut people with, like razors. I mean,
yeah. Here's a good example. I liked his Eddie Brock. I thought that looks really good.
Oh, you got all of them, don't you?
I think I'm missing one.
Which one? I'll send it to you.
I don't know. I got 121. I got 118, 119. I think I'm missing 120. And maybe if there's one before 118 and if there's one after 122.
No, it's 17 to 22.
17 to 22. So I'm missing 17 and 20.
17 and 20.
Yeah.
All right, let me see what I got. Hold on. Keep talking. I'll be back in 2 seconds.
All right.
He may dig it up for you.
He's going to show it off, I think. Now that's a run I would have assumed he got rid of because there's no, he's purged most of his superhero stuff.
Yeah,
and there's no key to that, that whole run. I mean, it's a cool little run. And of the Marvel Comics Presents runs, I would say it's the second most sought after stretch in Marvel Comics Presents, the first being the Weapon X storyline.
Right.
And then the second will be Wolverine versus Venom. I think those are the really only 2 key runs in that full run of Marvel Comics Presents Volume 1.
Yeah.
So
I can't think of anything else. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got 2 copies of one. I had doubles. I had 2 copies of each issue in that run, and I've been getting them slabbed and selling them off. But what I've got left is 2 of the 119s and 1 of the 121. So I guess you already have those.
Yeah, I've got those. Thank you, though.
All right. Yeah, you're out of luck. I sold the other ones. I had 2 of each, and I've just been getting them slabbed and selling them over time. But I carefully read through each one and enjoyed them, and they're just not something that fits in my collection at this point to save, but I've enjoyed them, and they're cheap. You can pick these up in high grade. I didn't pay more than $5 for any of these, really. And these are all 9/8s right here.
You can get them in high grade. There's a archive shop. Actually, it's called the Archives. That's near me. If Spider Comic 7's still in the chat, I know he frequents there too. And he's usually has runs like this come in. He prices them, puts them out, and they're usually $4 to $5 books. In good condition or better. And then he'll run a sale about every quarter, where every where every $5 or below book is only $1, and the whole store basically turns into a dollar bin, and it's awesome. I never miss one of those sales. I show up when he opens and I stay for hours, just going through getting run fillers and things like that. So those books are on my list for that.
Okay.
Let's see.
I was also gonna talk about Deathlock, since you said our favorite characters and how they've changed.
Oh yeah.
This character has changed at least 3, 4, maybe 5 times in Marvel continuity. He started as Luther Manning, which is why we have a channel by Patrick, who is also a big Deathlock fan. And every time he changed slightly. Like here, he was about half man, half machine. Right, he was cybernetic, but half his face, and I think his right arm and part of his torso was still human. And then the Michael Collins version came in, and in that version, I think only his brain was human. I think everything else was cybernetic. And then there was another version where he was fully cybernetic and he was like remotely controlled.
Mm-hmm.
And then the most recent one that I know about is this gentleman here, and he's actually mostly human. So they're kind of going back now, but he's actually like a what do you call it, DS, when there's a trigger word and they revert to a pre-programmed
sleeper agent.
A sleeper agent. Right, exactly. So he's like a medic in the field, and when things go wrong, they activate the Deathlock, and then all of a sudden he starts, just being a killer again.
Like Sir Hans.
I think he has a cybernetic leg, though. Come to think of it.
I know Chris Barker is a big fan too of his because he likes to collect the amputees.
Oh, well, maybe that's true. I haven't talked to him about that. You're right.
No, he is. I sent him a signed Deathlock once because I had come across it, and he had mentioned what a big fan he was. I think he's got all the first runs of Deathlock, all the original runs of his.
Okay. I got to talk to him. I got to talk to Chris about that. I don't think we talked about Captain America and so forth, but I don't think we talked too much about that.
Well, I know you have those figures too, don't you? You've got 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah, sure, right here. Yeah,
it's good stuff.
Yeah, that was Brian from a contest I won from Brian the Collector of All. This is a Luther Manning iteration, but again there you see, and then there's actually another one which I was going to just briefly show because it's kind of a outlier. But in the Beyond series, there was another Deathlock yet, but this was kind of like alternate, like a Elseworlds kind of thing. But this was a mean, this was a real killing machine here. So right there, you have 3 or 4 within the span of 20, 30 years. Totally different characters. They were actually, 4 different people that were involved in those characters. So the Deathlock was the same. In other words, the idea was the same, but there were 4 different characters used. And again, did they change with the times? Perhaps. Michael Collins was more of a hacker and a computer expert. Luther Manning was more of a military guy. This guy was a medic that now it can be switched on and off to be a killing machine. And this was just a bad mofo,
Which, when I was talking to Marv Wolfman about his recreation of the Teen Titans, and he was saying basically that when you're coming in on the writing staff, you're looking. A lot of writers are looking. He was looking for characters that no one's really done anything with in a while, that were kind of in the dumpster bin and ready to be reused, reimagined in any way that you wanted. Didn't have a strong following that anyone was really going to get upset about. So you just try another version of the character and see if it works. So
that's why there are so many different versions, exactly for that reason. Because they're, obviously it's different. Like when you're doing an iconic character like Superman, Spider-Man, because obviously there's such rich history, and you're going to have all kinds of backlash if something goes against some kind of previously already established history. But how many people really know about Deathlock? How many people really know about Darkhawk, for example? Yeah, they don't have big followings, so changes are not really controversial.
Well,
yeah,
you
but
know,
I think Deathlock. I think that Astonishing Tales 25 is a good undervalued key to pick up because they haven't really done anything with him, but they certainly could if you're into like specking. But that's just a nice little key in first appearance, and I think it's relatively cheap and high grade even.
well, I'm pretty sure that you might have been right 3 days ago, but I'm pretty sure that I just heard on Daz the Key Chasers channel, maybe today, if not yesterday, that book just blew up based on speculations, and now it's getting hard to find. I mean, you might still find it in a dollar bin somewhere if you're lucky, but as far as buying it online, it just shot up today or yesterday based on Deathlock speculation.
Well, I'll tell you, about 5 months ago, I did a video where I recommended that as an undervalued key. So if anybody listens to me, you're welcome.
That's what happened. Yep.
And then is there any spec on this?
You would have one right now.
Yeah, I've got this. I didn't even know I had this. This is stuck in with my Marvel Ages. Probably not worth anything, but who knows? Are they doing a Netflix series or something?
That's the first power pack.
Yeah, maybe I'll hang on to it.
I'd love to.
I had this.
That's one of my favorite books to sell to an LCS because they always look at me with like they laugh, and I'm like, "Hey, look at the price, man. You know, you can flip this. How much
is this worth? Do you think? What do you think I could get for it? This is probably like an 8.5.
$10.
$10, yeah.
$10.
Right now, they're not doing anything with them. They're just kids. Right?
The newsstand.
Yep, newsstand. Hey, is that dollar price? Is that a standard comic or is that a giant one?
I mean, it seems pretty thick. So it says king size collector's item. Yeah.
Oh, it is king size. Okay, all right. Because I was thinking maybe
because it's 1984, so it is a pretty big price for that.
Okay, yeah.
Should be like 75 cents or 60 cents or 75 cents.
Yeah, Dave Enriquez says maybe the Deathlock speculation is an April Fool's Day, but I think it happened before. It happened a few days ago, I do believe. So maybe not. Probably not.
No, but Don, the comic book junkie, got me last year on April's 1st when he posted his video that he was selling off his entire collection, and I was like, "Oh, what slabs do you got? I'm down." I know, but I didn't fall for it this year. Last year, I asked him what slabs he has. I'm interested.
Silver Age Dave selling birdhouses.
Yep.
So
yeah, but you know. But Don, he said he's changing his hobby to macrame. Right there, forget it.
Oh.
That's not happening,
You never know with Don either because, like, I think it was a couple of months ago, he posted on Instagram that he was selling selfies of him and his dog. And he was not kidding. Like, he was 100% sincere, serious, and had said that people had been asking for them. So he was going to start selling selfies of him and his dog. So ever since then, I wasn't quite sure.
Hey, Miss Haley is really cute.
Yeah, she is.
Now, Dawn, it depends on how you go, but Miss Haley is really cute.
I'd probably take 2 pictures of the dog. So
during my haul,
we do.
Yeah.
When I was out of comics for a while, most people take a break and then get back into it. When I was during that break, I tried macrame and I could not get it. But I was doing some other stuff and I tried that. It's super difficult. But yeah, anybody can do that. That's impressive. But I actually tried that, believe it or not.
That's cool.
Wow,
I'm shocked from your work.
Yeah, I used to make hemp jewelry, and I was getting pretty good at it. Figured I'd try macrame. Not so much.
I've never been to. I'm okay with like some home type stuff. Like I can build stuff for the house, and we had an award-winning project at my. I showed you that DS.
Yeah, that was impressive. I like that.
Yeah, I like stuff like that. Science fair projects. Then I really get into that's the only time that my artistic talents ever really come out because I don't think there's much of them. So I have to build them up for like one key event a year. So it's usually, and I spend it on like a Pinewood Derby car or a science project or something like that. And let, me and my son will do something together and that's about it. So that's as artistic as I get.
That's cool. That's cool and all.
Yeah.
Other hobbies too, because a little variety. Not just focus on one thing all the time. So
yeah, I'm pretty focused right now. I'm buying and selling like crazy to try and get some money for Heroes Con and have a nice big healthy budget. And I'm still bidding on a couple of things on eBay, but my bidding strategy is basically to only steal books, if you will. So only really, really low bids, and most of the time I'm not going to get them, so it's okay. I don't mind to do that. So
yeah, I'm trying to get some money for Heroes Con too. I've got 2 packages at CGC right now. I should have both of them back, obviously, before that. And then I'm trying to get what I sent you guys pictures of today, those books. I'm trying to get a bunch of those sent in soon to get graded, and so they're back in time, because that's like $2,500 worth of books if I get high grades. So,
well, the Secret Wars 8 should make you some money, I would think.
Oh, those are locks for 9/8s too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Heroes Con's in June, and if you're not doing fast track, you got to have those sent out like next week.
Yeah, I know.
Back in time.
I know.
Hey, Bub, when are you getting back your Supergirl?
I don't know. Every day I check, and I fast track that thing, but technically I can't be upset until Thursday. So,
so Thursday the upset Bub comes out. Okay.
Yeah, by the numbers, but that they provided, which is kind of messed up, because when I first put in the order, the fast track was 21 days, and then when about a week later, after they already had my book, they changed the fast track numbers to 27 days. So I called and I was like, does that mean that because I submitted my book at the time when it was 21 days that it'll be 21? She's like, no, that's the current turnaround time for any book that you haven't received back yet, period. I'm like, oh, okay. So that added another week or so. So now I'm at this Thursday. If the books are not, they should be to the grader, because I was getting it pressed too. So it should be to the grader by Thursday. And if it's not, then I can call and say, hey, it's been 27 business days. Come on, let's do something. So
yeah, well, I'll tell you, they changed they updated their website and their submissions tracking page. It used to say received and then at CCS, so you could see when they were at the pressing part, and then they would go back and it would be at CGC and it would say verified C. But now it just says received, and it doesn't give you any update until it's been pressed, and then it goes back over for grading.
Yeah.
So they skipped a bunch of process. So you're like in the dark for the whole first part of it if it's being pressed, and you don't know anything until finally it says scheduled for grading. And I don't even think it says verified anymore. It just says received. My one went from received, and then the next thing I noticed, it said scheduled for grading. So it skipped the at CCS, it skipped the verified, and went straight to scheduled for grading.
Yes. Unfortunately, that's the case. which stinks, because I was really hoping to see it at least change to, say, CCS, which is, for those of you who don't know, the pressing division, if you will, of CGC. But they are in the same building. I know there was some speculation that there was some off-site or something like that, but they're all in the same building. It's just a different floor or whatever. And so my book isn't on the grading floor yet, and I won't get any kind of update until it's registered into the grading, until it's registered into the system and it's on the grading floor. Which, like I said, if I don't see anything Thursday, I'll start contacting them, and I suspect that it'll be there sometime next week, really.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even bother calling them. I mean, once it says scheduled for grading, that means it's like you're at the DMV and you get the ticket and you're sitting there for an hour, and then they call your number and you go up and you sort of are in line. That's the scheduled for grading. Once it hits that, it goes pretty quick, because it'll be scheduled for grading, and in a couple days it'll say graded, and then another day or two only it'll say shipped. So
yeah,
once you hit scheduled for grading, it's quick after that.
And then the U.S. Postal Service will put it on a pack mule and send it down to the damn Grand Canyon and then back up again in order to get to me. It's ridiculous. It's circled around my house.
I don't think from Florida to Kentucky you go through the Grand Canyon. I mean, I know my geography.
No. Roger, you wouldn't go through the Grand Canyon, but the U.S. Postal Service will if it's registered mail. They love it. It went to 5 states before it got to me. And all around me. It went north of me, went west of me, east of me. And that was after going through me, south. It went right up Main Street, man. I swear I saw the truck go by with a little CGC package on the back.
Yeah, it takes like 7 to 10 days when they ship it. It's not like when you send something to me or something.
It's ridiculous.
It's because the way they ship it, the type of package it is, it's locked up at every location. So once it moves to the next post office in the chain, they lock it up overnight. And then the next day, at some point, they go in there and it moves along again. But it may not move very far before it gets locked up again overnight. And sometimes it'll spend 2 days in a place before it moves on. So it takes longer because it's locked up at each location. But yeah, I'll tell you, when you start doing more CGC stuff, you can just get used to it, and you don't really worry about it as much until you check it and it says graded, and then you get sort of excited. And then when it says shipped, then you can look at the grades. You know, it takes 7 to 10 days to get them back. It's whatever.
I don't have patience. Once I've paid for something, I get very impatient. You know, so, but what's nice when you send them in for pressing, they only charge me for the pressing. They didn't charge me for the grading yet.
No,
So,
they won't. They charge you separately at each time. Which
yeah,
I actually don't like, because if you're using a credit card, that's fine. But if you're using your bank, you don't know when that charge is going to hit for the grading or the pressing. You know what I mean?
yeah, that's true.
If you could write a check if you want for it too and include that, I've done that, or use a credit card or whatever. But
No,
yeah, I'm not a big
thought
fan
about
of
that.
having those charges broken up into 2 things, and you don't have any idea when they're going to hit.
Yeah, listen, DS, I'm going to have to borrow about $70, but I don't know when.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's no good. Right.
Hey, at least it wasn't as bad as what happened to Mike at Area 51. He had to wait over 6 months for his. It wasn't CGC. It was the other one,
CBCS.
Yes. Oh, that's a joke anyway.
He waited over 6 months for his comics. Can you believe that?
Well, I'll tell you, the longest I've waited is for Golden Age to get pressed regular, no quick press, just regular press, no fast track, and then grading, value tier, no fast track, 5 months during busy con season. That's the longest it's ever taken, and that was the longest tiers with the pressing during con season. So, and that's still faster than most regular CBCS submissions, from what I hear.
Yeah, CBCS sent me a survey about 2 weeks ago because I hadn't used them all year. So I used them once last year, and I vowed I would never do it again. It took almost 7 months to get my books back, and the communication was terrible. They had lost my order number, some ridiculousness like that. It was a nightmare. So I vowed I would never use them again. So they sent me a survey about 2 weeks ago, and I filled out the survey, sent it to them. I was brutally honest, and they sent me a gift certificate for $25.
How long did it take to get the gift certificate?
After I finally filled out the survey, probably about a week.
Okay, that's ironically fast.
Well, it was electronic. It was an e. It was an e.
Yeah, electronically. Yeah, I mean, Scoon's Comics is right. That's a hostage situation there. When you're talking about 6 or 7 months, that's, man. I mean, that's one of my favorite new channels. That's really terrible business practice there. You got to hire more people if that's the case.
If you guys aren't subbed up to Scoon's Comics, you need to sub him up. He's got a great collection going there, and a pretty funny guy, and he reminds me a lot of when I got back into collecting recently and just kind of buying everything. So if you want to see a lot of random books, then hop on over, because it's great stuff.
And we hear refreshing stuff to see. It is.
Him and Charleston
wants to wait on PGX. Now PGX, see, I've submitted books to. Here's what I'll say: a lot of people will knock any one of the companies, but I have submitted books to all 3 companies. So I feel like that puts me on another level of review that most other people have not ever submitted a book to any of them, and yet will love CGC, or have never submitted a book to CBCS, but will say that their turnaround is too long. I've submitted one to each company, and I can tell you that PGX, for whatever it's worth, they were the fastest. So if you're only talking about turnaround time, I had my books back from them in 3 weeks, and I didn't pay any extra for any expedited anything. It was very quick. So, and that's all. And it was packaged well, and everything was secure, and there were no defects with the slabs. So that's all.
Yeah, the best balance between price, speed, and quality and accuracy of the grading, especially as it's viewed in the marketplace for value, is CGC. They are quicker than CBCS, but not as quick as PGX or EGS, that new service. Their grading is the most accurate and most accepted in the marketplace. And the price, I know people are like, CGC costs so much. I've compared the prices for all of these. They're about the same. There's a couple dollars difference. None of these are cheap and none of them are expensive. They're all about the same. They all have different tiers that they charge different amounts. And it's all within $5 of each other. I don't understand when people say PGX is so much cheaper or CGC is so expensive, or they're all about the same. I don't notice a big difference in prices. I've looked at all the prices on all of them. But, you know, if you just want quick turnaround time, I think EGS, that new one's pretty quick, and PGX is pretty quick.
Now that EGS, that's not a real, isn't that the people that are like putting security tape on a self-slab kit?
Well, it's that guy. He's a member of the community, Tony Trombetta.
Oh, okay.
He has a channel. It's just him. I don't think he has any employees. He's just doing everything on his own. He took a grading course, so he's certified at grading, and he just does all the work himself.
Oh,
and
I see.
He does quick turnaround times, but if you go look, he has different tiers for the books and different prices, and it's.
I did look, and I found his prices. My problem with it was only that the prices were very similar to, like you said, to everyone else's prices. So I don't know really why I would go that route with a book that I probably, if it was for a PC, maybe I would, for my own collection, maybe I would do it. But I don't care for the tape on the sides to hold it sealed. I don't care.
Well, here's the catch. If you want your books quick because you're trying to flip them, it's counterproductive to use non-CGC or CBCS because you're going to get less money when you sell them. So if you're flipping them, you want to use CBCS or ideally CGC. But if they're for your PC, then you don't need them right away. So also CBCS or CGC are the best bet because you're not planning on selling them anyway. So in either of those circumstances, for me, I use CGC. So, but everybody's different, and you know, they each have their own place, and they all get plenty of business.
Yeah, that's true. And you know, I never knock anybody's side hustle either. You know, it's it's true. I was approached by an LCS that's now no longer in business, although they claim to have changed locations. They just went back to their basement or whatever. But there was an LCS, and they had approached me, and they wanted me to be their professional grader, and they were going to start a little crazy grading company up, which really, nice. Yeah, I know. And that's just because I had been selling them a lot of books at an agreed upon grade / value. But you know, I don't think I would have been that liberal with other people's books. Like, you know, every book I sold them was an 8.0, you know, a raw 8.0. But you know, if somebody sent in a book, I'd have to grade it more cautiously and accurately, and then probably wouldn't have got as good a grade. So, well, whatever.
Yeah, it's easy. It's easy to grade moderns.
Yeah.
You know, if you just have a modern book and you just want to get it slabbed, then it's going to be a 9.6 or 9.8. It's really not that big. It's not that hard. Where it gets hard is determining restoration sometimes, which there's a lot of different kinds of it. And when you have older books with a lot of defects and different types of defects, and where the presentability can be completely different on two books, where the grade might be the same, you really have to have some experience with those kind of books. And it's really it's a technical process, and I have a lot of respect for people who are professional graders. You know, PGX, the problem with them is they've just burnt their bridges over time, and they've ruined their reputation where I don't think it's salvageable.
Yeah, where CGC had a bad reputation of pay-to-win tactics early on, but they salvaged it.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest scandal CGC's had, as far as like wouldn't trust them, was there was a guy that did micro trimming quite a few years back, and they called it micro trimming. He was trimming the books in such a way that he would even trim the corners with like a fingernail clipper sort of, and made it almost impossible to tell that the book was trimmed. And CGC, and there's one guy that was doing this routinely with hundreds and hundreds of books, maybe thousands. And CGC didn't catch a lot of it. They caught some of it, but some not. And later on, people found out they had trimmed books that had been slabbed by CGC, and it caused sort of a scandal. But this was like a professional forger level type guy that was doing this and was catching a lot of people by it, including CGC. You know, they never did anything unethical, and it was admittedly by experts tough to determine when those books that have been micro trimmed. You know, it was really tough to tell. It's fooling experts. So, you know, everybody has their own things. PGX has had a little bit more, and I think their trust has really been undermined. And I don't know how you get that back from the stuff that's happened with them.
Well, I think, you know, and we're getting off obviously the original topic, so we'll wrap it up a little bit. But I think that there's basically going to be three main reasons to get a book slabbed. You're either slabbing for pure protection, for the grade it has in order for resale value most of the time, but to get it graded, we'll say. And then also for not just the protection of the book itself, but also the encapsulation to where it's now safe, and to handle and everything like that. The preservation of the book, if you will. So I like these one-touch cases. They're nice. They're acrylic. They're UV protected. I use a backing board, a clear backing board on them, and Mylar. So they're about as nice and shiny and clean as you're going to get. They cost about as much as a slab. They're about, somewhere around $20 after tax per, but I can still get to my book, open it up and read it if I want to. So I haven't preserved it necessarily, but it is protected. And it's displayed. And they have the nice hangers on the back to where you don't need any kind of special mounts. They have the alligator teeth back there. You can hang them up on anything.
Yeah, I mean, you got to tailor this stuff to what's good for your collection. I mean, you're somebody who's buying and selling all the time. You probably want to use CGC, but if you're not doing that, so those are perfect.
Yeah, because of my bigger books, I don't sell those. I keep those.
Right.
So, So, all right, guys.
There's another thing, just quick. Slabbing is good for insurance purposes because you can record the cert numbers and you can have a very specific identifiable value in case of an insurance claim. Much easier to do. Hopefully I never have to have one, but much easier to work with an insurance company when you have big books in slabs with cert numbers and grades.
That is very true.
For what it's worth.
I also work with an appraiser too. A good thing to have is make friends with a local appraiser. Almost every town has a certified appraiser. I say every town. Now, if you're extremely rural, you have to go to wherever the biggest Walmart is. But there's a certified appraiser in your area, and get an independent appraisal of your collection. And this, like DS said, the CGC or any grading company really at that point with the appraiser, but the CGC especially, because there's so much sale data based off CGCs, that you can very easily replicate the value of your collection the more you have slabbed and graded. So yeah, there you go. Because they have a separate mark. The appraiser has a separate column where they put other party verified values. So they would say, okay, the CGC is at this number, and they would just put, this is a 2.5 CGC Silver Surfer number 1, and that goes in a separate column than if I just had it out raw and I said I think it's about a 2.5. They would still rate that it was a 2.5, but it goes in a separate column that then has to be further researched.
Who is is this an appraiser for the insurance company that insures your collection? Is that what you're talking about?
No, what I advocate. So you should get. My favorite company is CSI or SCI, Collectors CIS, Collectors Insurance Services. I think it is. So CIS. If that's not right, just mix those up. You'll get it. You can Google for that, and they take agreed upon values. So you submit the value to them, and then they do that. But what can happen in the event of a claim, and that's not just with them, but in other agencies and companies, insurers that insure your collection, is that the only really rock solid way to get exactly what you think you should get, and this is not a knock against the insurance companies, it's just how it is, right, is to have a third party appraiser to appraise your collection once a year or so. And usually it's very much the same process. You're submitting the information to them. They do a couple of verifications of it. They have to see the collection in person. And then they do a couple of verifications on the prices, and then they establish a value, and they hand you a certificate, which they keep a copy of as well in their files of that value. And then when the insurance company comes back and they have a value, if you are not pleased with the value that the insurance company has placed on your collection, then you have another party that has verified a higher value, and then it's kind of 2 against 1, and it usually works. Now, if the insurance company comes back with a value that's higher than what your appraiser had, well, you just take that certificate and eat it. So, because as long as the insurance company is going to offer you more than you thought it was, then you kind of take it, right? So that's the idea.
That's a little different than how I do it. I basically provide an inventory list to my insurance company, and I list all the slabs and all the cert numbers and I'll list the raw books too, but mostly anything of value I get slabbed. And then I will declare the value on it. And then if I ever have a claim, they will check the value. I use my own values to determine how much coverage, but then they will go see it, find the fair market value. And if they can't find it or I don't like it, I can get an appraiser, and we'll work with them to arrive at what we agree is a fair market value for the book. So a little different, but yeah, I like your way's good. I haven't done any third-party appraising of any of my books. I just declare values myself. If there's ever a claim, me and the insurance company will endeavor to reach an agreed upon fair market value for any of them.
And that's all I'm advocating. It's the same thing. I do the same thing you're talking about, but then you also get, just as a safety net, you have a third party appraisal declare value right then once a year. And that way, if anything happens and you and the insurance company are at an impasse at the value of your collection, then you have a third party who has physically verified the books, which the insurance company has not done. So the insurance company is taking your list. But if you have a third party appraiser come in and actually they actually verify that they witnessed these books in your collection and the value of those books, they corroborate, then that helps in the case where you and the insurance companies have not come upon a preferable agreed upon value to you. So.
Okay. Yeah, I provide pictures to my insurance company of a lot of them and the cert numbers, and I declare the values. But I'll tell you, I give them an updated inventory list often. Every time it changes, every month I'll send them a new inventory list.
Your collection is almost 99% graded. So I
don't have that many books either. So I have an inventory list, and when I sell a slab, I delete it off the list. And when I get a new book slabbed, I put it on the list, or if I buy a slab, and I keep a running total of what each one's worth. Over time the values change, they go up or down or whatever. I change it, monthly, it's updated. I put the new date on top of it, like updated as of March 1st, 2019. And I email my agent the copy of the new inventory list, and they just keep the newest one I send them on file. And if there's ever a claim, they'll go by that, and we'll figure out what the fair market values are if there's a disagreement or something.
Yeah. And also whatever you've got in transit, because a lot of them will insure books in transit for you.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's another thing. There's some things to look at if you get insurance. It covers transit, shows, things if they're in your car overnight, if you're out of town or something.
Yep.
Mine covers all that. It'll cover flooding if you don't keep them within like 12 inches of the floor.
Yeah, so they have rules.
That. Yep. And some of them, when it comes to theft or fire, will not cover unless you have certain things there. Like some
preventative measures.
Yeah, but some of them will cover theft if you file a police report within 24 hours. Some will only cover theft if you've got an alarm system, or if they're of a certain value, they're locked up somewhere, or fire if you have a certain number of smoke detectors or fire extinguishers. I mean, there's a lot. You got to look at these, the contracts for each of these to pick one. It's you got to go with what you think is going to be best for your situation where you're storing them.
Yeah, Knights of Old is saying, careful with CIS and shipping. And that's exactly what DS is saying. You really have to know these things. And my recommendation is always to go through an actual live agent. If you go, there's a good chance that there's an agent near you, an actual human being. You don't have to physically walk in there, but if you call via an agency, and there's a lot of feeling that, oh, well, I'll end up paying higher because I've added another step in the process. But what you've also added is another layer of accountability and another, I like to have someone to yell at. So there's that. And then there's also the idea that what they agree to you and coverage that an agent says is covered is reasonable and expected. So that means that if the agent is wrong and the company usually doesn't cover this, but the agent told you it covers it, then realistically it is covered for you because you were told by the agent that it was covered. So, and those types of extensions of coverage, now you have a claim against, the company, and then you can also potentially have a claim against the agency if they don't follow through on things that they promised that they would. So it adds another layer of protection to your collection anytime you go through an agent, as opposed to just buying it online. So there's that too.
Yeah, I think my insurance company is American Collectibles Group or something.
Yeah, they're number 2 in the industry, or you could say, tied for first, whatever. But those are the 2 top dogs, CIS and American Collectibles.
Collect, insure, and
yeah, what Knights of Old is saying about the dealer policy, Mine covers all that stuff, and I don't need a specific dealer policy. It covers it if I'm transporting or if I'm whatever. Like I'll bring books to Heroes Con, and if for some reason they get damaged in transport, they're covered.
Yeah. Also, it's good to separate your flip books from your keeper books. So if there's a set collection that you tend to keep, and then other books are just passing through your collection, it's good to keep those in an actual physical separate location in some way. You know, put them in a closet as opposed to in the room. You know,
Right.
put them in a separate room or put them in the garage or basement, or, you know, separate them physically. And that way, if anything happens to one group, doesn't happen to the other group, you can easily claim the difference.
Yeah, I'll tell you this is another benefit I'm going to throw out there of having trimmed my collection down. It's very small and concise, is that everything fits sort of on one bookshelf, and different shelf is a different thing. And it's very concise. It's very easy to do an inventory list. It's very easy to keep track of what I have. You know, and that helps for everything, and it helps for insurance stuff too, because I don't have a lot of stuff scattered everywhere. I just have a very small area that has all my stuff in it. So,
Awesome.
yeah, we should talk. We should do a little more discussion about insurance and protection and stuff like that in one of our upcoming chats.
We can. That sounds good. We'll end it here tonight though, because we need to give DS time to film his shelf tour. I know.
I'm sure there's a contest entry that just he's dying to enter for that.
I know it.
Yeah, all these room tour contest entry videos. Mine would take 10 seconds. I'd be like, here's top shelf, no comics there. Bottom shelf, too close to the floor, so I don't keep anything there. 2 middle shelves. There you go.
There you go.
Well, you can film it and then have Roger narrate it. It should take about an hour and a half.
If you want to, if you guys want to stick on for a second after we get off here, I'll turn the computer and show you guys the entire storage section.
Oh boy, after hours party.
But I'm not putting it on
This is
YouTube. But I'll show
DS
you
must be
guys.
working late.
Ooh.
All right, guys. Well, you hear it. We got a date with DS's shelf, so we got to get off here. I thank you all for joining us again on this great episode, I think, of No Faces Comic Chat, and we'll catch you the same time next week. Thank you to all of you in the chat and anyone watching the rewind. You guys are awesome, and you know, we enjoy the interaction so much. So thank you all, and we'll catch you next week. And let's see, DS, say goodbye.
All right. Thanks for everyone for being here. See you next week.
Thank you, and Roger.
Everybody take care, be blessed, and be back next week.
And I'll tell you all to read a comic. And thanks and goodbye.